Okay, next, I'd like to call on the Canadian Constitution Foundation, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Sujit Choudhry. I'm counsel for the Canadian Constitution Foundation. I wanted to ask you a few questions about the legislative history of Section 2C and the emergence of IMVE as a central focus for CSIS's activities, if I may. So is it true that Section 2C was amended in 2001 by the Anti-Terrorism Act to include a religious or ideological objective?
I believe so. I believe that's accurate.
And is it true that that amendment was ensured that the CSIS Act would align with the criminal code's new definitions of terrorism?
I wasn't involved in that, so I don't want to lead you in error, so I'm not certain.
Mr. Vigneaut, you're shaking your head.
Same answer.
Okay, all right, fair enough. And so I'd ask you to take my word for it that it was part of the same legislative package to get those two statutes in alignment. And then in 2019, there is a major initiative on the part of CSIS is the development of a definition and framework for ideologically motivated violent extremism. Is that right?
I believe that the work started before that, but I think it was maybe put in higher gear. I had in my first public speech that I had made after becoming director in 2018, that speech spoke to the rise of this, and I believe I used the concept of IMV then, but it's around 2018, 2019 indeed that work was solidified and the concepts were developed to try to understand, characterize better this new phenomenon dynamic we were seeing in society.
Good. And sir, and just so we're clear, I believe that the first time CSIS reported out on this development in its thinking was in the 2019 annual report.
That sounds accurate, yes.
Okay, good. And is it true in your interview summary you stated that that IMVE does not mirror the criminal code definition of terrorism?
I don't recall seeing that. You'd have to show me the document.
Sure. So could we pull up witness summary 60, please? And could we go to the bottom of page 3? Thank you. If we could expand, yes, that's very helpful. Thank you. Okay. So, Mr. Vigneaut, do you agree that you said here that the definition of IMVE does not mirror the criminal code definition of terrorism?
I'm just trying to look at it here. Is it the last sentence?
Yeah, it's the last. It starts at the third line from the bottom, sir.
Yes.
Okay. And then if you could continue, you could just continue you said, you gave them the example of Alexandre Bissonnette, who met the services definition of an ideologically motivated extremist, but who was not charged with terrorism offenses under the code. Did you say that?
Yes.
And so is it reasonable to infer from your evidence there that the definition of IMVE is broader than a criminal code definition of terrorism?
I'm not sure I would say it's broader, but it's for different purposes for sure. And I think I'm very familiar with the attack at the Quebec City Mosque, and this example and other unfortunate examples is what forces us to say this dynamic. We need to better understand what is happening. So that work to better define IMV, the 4 quadrants, and so on, was in relation to that. But it's also very important. And this comment, when I say that it was different than the criminal code, is that you could meet a definition of threat to security of Canada under the CSIS Act. Sure. You could meet the sociological definition of terrorist activity, which I believe that Alexandre Bissonnette was indeed engaged in terrorist activity. but that may not transfer the Crown charging someone for a terrorist offense. And I think it is a very important notion that indeed has been, very troubling for many in the country, including in this specific case, the Muslim community in Canada.
So does it follow, sir, from what you've just said, that IMVE, or the notion of IMVE, gives CSIS broader tools to assess and respond to extremism than might be available under the criminal code?
I think by statute, CSIS has been built to be separate and distinct from law enforcement and from the criminal code, in the sense that our threshold for investigations would be different than the police. Our techniques might be also different. So I think, it is clearly separate, the two.
And sorry, ma'am, did you?
No, I think that's a very accurate
Okay.
response.
Would you say that it's that CSIS over the last number of years has developed a lot of expertise on IMVE?
I would say yes, because unfortunately there are more cases in Canada, there are more cases internationally, and we have worked very closely with a number of partners at the federal, provincial, municipal level, and international partners. And as my colleague testified, that conceptual framework has been adopted by a couple of international partners as well.
And the analysis is done in the first instance by skilled intelligence professionals.
Yes, that would be accurate.
And you're a learning organization, so you're always trying to improve how you analyze IMVE.
That would be accurate, yes.
Okay. And so would it be fair to say, if you can now look back to 2018 or 2019 and think about the world before then and the world after in terms of CSIS's function, do you think that the adoption of IMVE has broadened the scope of the activity CSIS investigates under 2C?
I would not say they broaden. I would say that they help our investigators, our analysts, to better understand of how the CSIS Act applied. What would be the because again we make a very significant distinction in what we call awful but lawful speech and protected, by the charter, versus activities that would be defined under the CSIS Act. And so I think it's not a broadening, it's more a fine tuning of the understanding, developing analytical tools to make sure that not only do we not go over the law, but that we are indeed investigating the threats to Canada as mandated by Parliament.
So, but you would agree that IMVE now occupies 50% or more of CSIS resources?
Of our counterterrorism resources, yes.
Mr. Commissioner, how much time do I have left?
You have about 2 minutes left.
Okay, I'd like to pivot at the end just to the issue of threats to government officials online, if I may, because my friend Mr. Champ raised it for you. And so it seems to me, and I ask you to agree with this, that it seems that the mere utterance of a threat online doesn't necessarily per se cross the Section 2C threshold. Is that right?
Yes, that would be accurate.
Yeah. Could you tell us when it would?
I think as we try to maybe unskillfully try to exchange previously, the analysis, is based on the best way possible to describe it is what we have on this placemat. These analytical tools have been developed to make sure that, at all levels of the organization, but also more broadly within the community with law enforcement, who are themselves in their own jurisdiction trying to understand what is happening and make a distinction between something that would be bravado online, that would be something that should be investigated, under the criminal code by law enforcement, and something that we CSIS would be doing. So it's probably the best way of describing it, which is maybe not helpful for your purpose.
Okay. Well, Mr. Commissioner, I think we're out of time. So thank you for your time.